the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Greetings and welcome, everybody, to this, the 50th episode of AVNation TV's Connected 50-50. It's been an amazing ride, and I love bringing the content to you, and hopefully you guys like watching it, so definitely send some feedback and let us know. But 50, and I'm sitting to you here from my suite at CES Conference 2023 in Las Vegas, where I was lucky enough to interview a number of analysts and industry people, walked around the show floor a little bit. Not as many products as there were concepts this year, so not a lot of gadgets to show you, but I will show you. We'll talk to people, we'll talk about their opinions, we'll talk about what's going on, a lot of interesting different themes. So it's a lot of conversation, a lot of really good information here, so stay tuned with us, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh, good. The business publication. Obviously, we traded with a lot of automotive interests. Oh, okay. But not me.
We'll do it. So we are here at CES, and now we're in a two-shot. That's wonderful. The camera's smarter than we are in terms of talking, so hopefully it'll give you the right shot all the time. I'm here with Doug Money, who's now showing off a logo on his shirt. What's that logo from?
Fiber Broadband Association. I'm editor-in-chief of the Fiber Forward magazine for the Fiber Broadband Association.
That's terrific.
So we're about all things broadband.
So do you remember what number CES is this of yours?
I have lost count. I think I went to my first one probably sometime around the turn of the century, young man. So it's probably been a couple decades for the CES.
No, I know I'm over 20. I think I'm under 30, but I'm not sure. I might be over 30 as well. It's how much more coloring I have to put on my beard every year to know how much longer I've been here. What's been your best CES experience ever?
I would have to, last year was pretty good. And I know that's a radical thought, but last year was pretty good because there was nobody around, so it was easy to get from point A to point B. That was a good experience. I think my other good experience was for the first couple that I went to, where the show was, was comfortable, me and 100,000 other friends. It hadn't gotten to the mega 180K type of situations where you had to wait an hour and a half for cab lines.
So, hello, Mark.
Hi.
For anybody who's not familiar with you, tell me who you are, what you do, where you work, what your life's like.
Sure. I run the AV practice for SM&W, and I'm here at the show looking for a technology that is in the consumer space that would be relevant to our clients. And those clients can be corporate clients, hospitality, even medical equipment. And all those areas are going to see outcomes percolate up from this consumer space that may be relevant to them.
And we've seen that over the last, 10 or 12 years. I've been coming here, we were talking about it before, probably close to 30 years at this point, where this is like our 18 to 24 month look ahead into what's going on in technology. And we'll see something. I know this happened to me personally. I'll see something that I've never seen before at the show, and then like about a year and a half later, we'll see it in one of the stores. My mom will say, "Hey, look at that!" I say, "Oh, that's nothing. I saw that a year and a half ago."
That's the key thing, Dave, is that we know from the experience of being at the show several times, the most fantastic products that you really want to get your hands on are still light years away, right? And we're not looking at those specific products more as this trend. For example, I think the automotive industry, right? It's not really related to corporate, but some of the things they're doing in terms of the dashboard, the user interface. If you're traveling at 75 miles an hour in a car, what are you going to look at? How are you going to look at it? Even though you're not traveling that fast in a meeting room, you still are thinking through this, how you use it, read things, how you use the text. So it's all becomes relevant even in these other markets.
And we were here in Las Vegas early. My family had come out with me for New Year's Eve. Lord knows why they wanted to do it here. But, very hard to get cars. So by the time we picked up our rental car, all they had were like the real luxury cars left. So it took me a good 2 days to figure out how to use the dashboard on a car that I hadn't rented before. Which menu is it? I asked the guy, I was looking for the lever to adjust the wheel, and he showed me where the button was. So yeah, it's a lot of the what's intuitive, what kind of user interfaces. What we do, what we've done for years in rooms is now relevant to how can we do it quickly without breaking concentration from the road. Or maybe we're putting a car on autonomous drive, which they're all talking about now, and playing with the radio.
Is it a car? I mean, what we talk about AV, the definition of AV, in the car space, it's really now a glorified computer, right? So that is a lot like our distribution with technology in any other platform. Microsize the spaces, make it consistent, reliable, effective. That's going to transcend.
And one last car thing, again, with this rental car, we were pulling it into the spot, against the column, and I was going very slowly, as I normally would. I was trying to get up as close to the column as I could because the back sticks out. And when it got to a certain point, it wouldn't let me go anymore. It put the brakes on. It says you're too close to the column. So yeah, these things are now smarter, and that's one of the pieces of technology. We've had smart technology for 10 years, but is the smart technology actually becoming wise to what's around it?
Yeah, and I'm going to go a little further deeper into that because I saw this, one of the honorees in technology, I think one of the winners in innovation, is Deere for their tractor, and it's an autonomous tractor, right? Okay, so we don't really think we're going to engage with autonomous tractors, but what's behind or under the hood is NVIDIA, which is developing a platform, and we call this infrastructure as a service. So this cloud platform that allows the developers to create both the user experience and the physical devices at the same time concurrently. So where you previously would be physically making the components to make the car, because of the amount of software and tech that's in there, you need to ride both concurrently and understand how the user experience is going to be and develop all of the dashboards in parallel to deliver it to market. So seeing companies that are in the multimedia space like NVIDIA provide this opportunity for these manufacturing companies to develop their products shows us the synergy and shows us the value of looking at this larger picture of where cloud and platforms can be subscribed to, can be utilized, where you may not have in your smaller businesses the full ability to build these products out because you don't have the arsenal of tools. Almost like the way Amazon would have their cloud services and be able to have subscriptions to that service built out. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So I am here with my friend and colleague Shannon Schmoon. Shannon, hi, welcome to CES in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
So all those secrets that we couldn't talk about when you were on the show with me the last time, you can talk about now, right? We had a huge press release out this morning.
Absolutely. Today we announced our Voyager 360 series, as well as the Voyager 360 Plus, which comes with a smart charging case and an LED touchscreen.
We announced a number of HP devices as well today, right? That are being shown off.
Yes.
New displays, new technologies for eye gaze adjustment. Anything you want to say about any of those?
New PCs. Yes, I think, as far as the full suite of solutions that were announced today, it really spans hybrid work solutions and sustainability across the board. And so a lot of really exciting stuff. And if you haven't checked it out yet, just go to the HP News room and you can view more information there.
So it's not just the headsets, but tell us what's unique about those headsets.
Yeah, so these are our wireless earbuds, and basically they come with two earbuds that have sensors on each side of the buds. You can also touch swipe to adjust volume. The case itself, the smart charge case, is very cool. If you can go in, you can access Poly Lens, download it. You can adjust the settings and personalize and customize to, the way you want to use your case, and manage the status calls, mute. You get up to 15 hours between the earbuds and the case. So you can just go on the road, or, if you're in the office or at home, you don't have to worry about it. You can charge the case. It has a USB port. But what's also cool and is unique to this case is it has an audio, 3.5 millimeter audio input. So if you're traveling, you can plug into in-flight entertainment systems and, basically just listen to music or take calls or whatever you need to do.
I love that if you're actually looking at an in-flight system, there have been a few that experiment with Bluetooth and they don't work. So now you can actually just plug the case in to both the USB port to charge on at least some of the transcontinental flights and international flights, and you can plug the 3.5 millimeter jack in, and now you can be using your earbuds while looking at the in-flight entertainment system. That is a really cool feature.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, not to mention, they're just super portable, right? You can just throw them in your pocket, in your purse, in your bag, and take them on the go.
Do we know when they're going to be generally available and what the rough price is going to be?
Yeah, they're starting at $299, and the exact time frame, it will likely be closer to Q2, but as soon
calendar Q2.
But as early as possibly March in America.
March, April time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, Paul, as we get this set up, and we're using the auto technology and the Poly R30 camera.
Great.
How are you doing today, Paul?
I'm good. David, how are you doing?
I'm terrific. Paul, introduce yourself to people who may not know you.
I'm Paul Erickson. I am the founder and principal of Erickson Strategy and Insights, which is a consultancy that I set up to go independent after almost 20 years of being an industry analyst for a lot of notable companies like IHS Markit, Omdia, Parks Associates, and MPD Display Search. And this is probably my 15th CES.
Very nice.
So I'm a veteran, much like David. And David, I can't remember the last time I saw you in person. Was it 4 years ago, maybe?
Oh, it had to be longer than that. It had to be, probably at an Infocom going back 10, 12 years in person.
Wow.
I mean, we've seen each other a lot.
Yes, I know.
It's the world that we're in now.
Did I run into you at ISE 4 years back? I don't know. Well, definitely Infocom in Orlando, I think.
Yeah, well, you know what? The truth of the matter is you get to a certain age in the industry when your hair is this color and you have to tint your beard, that more people know you than you know.
Yes.
So I don't remember everybody that I run into, but I always smile and shake hands and do that. So we were at CES, being honest. We're recording this on, what the heck day is it? Wednesday.
Yes.
This is Media Day 2, technically. Day 1 was yesterday. We've already been through a bunch of press conferences today. I was at the 8 a.m. LG conference. Panasonic had their conference. Bosch had their conference. And one of the things that came up, and I do want to talk to you about this, we're starting to see a lot of ESG, environmental social governance, being talked about at the conference. Instead of throwing around the buzzwords that were here for last year's shorter show and smaller show, and the year before we were all digital, we were metaverse and blockchain and NFTs and crypto. Those they're still there, but they're sort of like under a blanket sideways. Everybody's talking about sustainability, diversity and inclusion, the ESG, all these pieces, and they're taking it seriously.
Right.
We were talking before about how important it is for retention of employees and recruiting employees, how important it is when you're trying to sell to a company, how sustainable your products. It looks like after many years of just babbling about it, the industry is now finally taking sustainability seriously.
They are, and it is refreshing to see, the commitment from. It could be as fundamental as. Let me back up. I was going to say versus some of the grander efforts that you see played out in. What's spoken about in terms of how companies are changing policy and what they're doing in manufacturing. Sometimes I like to look at the commitment to a certain initiative by looking at how, at the smallest levels, like how are you seeing this permeate the company's products or culture? And it could be as simple as looking at Samsung's remote controls that are, solar recharging, in different ways where companies are committing R&D. They're committing spend towards not just the implementation of, not just towards being a better company in terms of sustainability, DEI, governance, ESG, not just at the corporate level, cultural level. Sorry, I've had too much caffeine, but also at the product level. like committing that R&D spend. And normally, like CapEx, committing spend is the area where it's hardest to get companies to really do something. And I think that we see that in a lot of products that are coming out now, where companies are looking at, and we can see if you agree with this. I think companies have looked at a lot of these things that they looked at previously as nice to haves or intangibles or these annoying cost, potential cost centers, where the past couple years, looking at how the state of employment and employability changed over the pandemic, and people were working remotely, and people deciding that they didn't necessarily have to be committed to a certain company or a certain location, that it brought this front and center for companies where they had to start concentrating on the intangibles, because people started looking for the intangibles in their jobs, now feeling that they were freer to move to jobs that were more fulfilling or, aligned better with their interests and so on. And so to me, it seems like a lot of that has finally filtered back to the employers, where they realize that employees are an important resource, right? That keeping your employees happy, or
Just keeping them.
They're always happier if you pay them more, right? But I think sometimes if you get to more fundamental ways in which they can be kept happy or kept fulfilled for the long term, it gets to a lot of these things that tie into values, they tie into principles, and a lot of what you're seeing with sustainability, DEI, and ESG, it is in that direction. So it is an interesting trend to see, amongst others that we'll mention shortly.
And we do want to talk about the economic impact of that, because, in addition to just being good for the sake of being good and being attractive to customers and to employees, we're now creating products that are more powerful or just as powerful, but using less power.
Right.
And that adds up, when you have hundreds or thousands of laptops or compute sitting somewhere and you're using less power. The packaging is smaller, so you're saving on the packaging materials, which is good for the environment, but you're also increasing the amount of product per pallet, as we talked about before. And these are all turning into cash, especially in a recession. That it adds up. It really has a long tail on it.
It does, and I think hard times or difficult times. It's a double-edged sword. On one edge of that sword is clearly difficulty. Challenging conditions, a reduced profitability, and so on. But the other side of that sword is that it has to make you sharper, right? You have to execute better. It makes you concentrate on all the ways in which probably you were doing so great before in your existing business that you just ignored all the different areas where probably money was leaking out, or you were not doing well, or you were not taking care of your employees, for example. So I think that through every challenge, there's also the opportunity to reinvigorate the company, to rethink certain things, to become better, sharper, better combatant as a competitor. So I think, we're seeing that now, where people are noticing, yes, we can do more sustainably. We can also be better at packaging. We can be smarter at packaging. We can actually do both. We can create sustainable packaging, and we can fit more pieces per container, or we can spend less money on logistics, on the weight of packaging, if we just get smarter about how we package products, keep it more compact, maybe reduce some of the excess, glossy, fancy materials, but we stick to fundamentals. We make the packaging attractive, but we also make it as small and as compact while still protective as possible.
And also the products themselves have a much higher quantity of recycled materials in there. I know HP, announced their new monitor stands today that are, aluminum. The aluminum is from recycled aluminum cans. The plastics are from recycled plastics from a lot of manufacturers. So again, it looks like this is a trend, as opposed to just being a buzzword that we've had in the past, that companies are really taking seriously, and employees and customers are taking seriously.
Yeah, and I hope it continues into the future, because, right now we're in uncertain economic times, let's say, for the next year or two, or undetermined amount of time. And so companies are trying to execute smarter, sharper, being more efficient. Will that change when good times come back and they're making money hand over fist? I hope not, right? I hope that type of cognizant, attention to things like, again, sustainability and, power conservation and so on. I think that it's a question in my mind, but I'm hopeful that that doesn't go away, right? That stays in their collective consciousness into perpetuity, that's just simply a part of the consumer electronics industry going forward.
Fingers crossed that companies are doing things for the good of all mankind. So let's shift gears a little bit. One of the trends that I've been watching so far today is this concept of the importance of recurring revenue. And, we understood, for years, we were talking about this before, for years, people were talking about cutting the cord, not paying the cable bills anymore, so they're going to get everything over the top. Over the top is just as expensive now in terms of all the services that we have, but it's extending past the things that we were expecting. It's now, we were talking before, automobile makers are now unbundling like airlines were. They're charging you monthly for heated seats. I assume this is a trend that you've seen and that we're going to continue to see.
Yes, I have some quite a few interesting opinions on this, but I cover, as you probably know, my shift over the past years, I've covered streaming services extensively and the connected entertainment space, and it's been interesting looking at how that whole business has changed over the past few years, especially, being here at the show. You look at the Samsung, LG, a lot of the TV makers.
They're the new gatekeepers, by the way.
Yes.
If there's a platform on there or not, it's no longer the MSOs. Now it's the.
That's where they see the money, and so my opinion's always been that whoever controls the final point of entertainment consumption, who aggregates at that point, they're the ultimate gatekeeper. And so we see the TV business now being defined not by how many things you sell, right? I mean, that's still an important factor, but it's not the per unit revenue at the time of sale that really is the long money, right? The long money for somebody like a Samsung or a Roku, who sells the platform, right? They sell devices. Roku, for example, they're not really in as much of the device business anymore in terms of share of revenue that comes from devices versus platform licensing, but ultimately, you get long tail revenue from selling that measurement data, the advertising, everything else that comes from having that presence on a device because you control that operating system, right? It's your operating system. And so that's the long money in TVs. And, we see shifts in power even within advertising, right? The traditional heavyweights in advertising and in measurement, they're now having to deal with the fact that Samsung's ad and measurement data business that they stood up, Vizio's and so on, they were also selling that glass level data to the Nielsen's of the world because now that's almost the ground truth, right? To figure out what people are doing on that device, that TV, whether it's gaming, watching a video, watching YouTube, and it's immensely powerful.
Tell everybody, if they're not familiar with you, who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Adrian Cottrell. I'm primarily known in the AV industry as the editor of Daily Do, which is a blog. I'm a journalist by trade, but I put on my own events in order to make money in this world, primarily based in the billboard advertising ad tech industry. So we tend not to do AV events anymore, but ad tech and billboard events.
Got it. So why are you at CES? Why have you been to CES?
Well, it's a good question. I'm here at CES because I like Vegas. I'm probably one of those weird people who likes Vegas.
That's some rare honesty for my interview guests.
Yeah, well, I like staying here. I like the surrounding area. Vegas is a great place to come. You can stay away from the Strip and have a good time. But I've been coming to CES since 1992. I missed the year that we was one year we didn't do COVID.
Oh yeah, we didn't do COVID in 2021.
21. Okay, but you and I were both here last year.
Yes.
We've got special badges of honor as we were here.
I'll have to give you one. Don't let me forget.
Okay, I won't forget. So 1992. I've been here every year since then. Like you, I think it's one of the best shows to gauge what's coming up in the industry. Maybe sometimes a couple of years ahead. It's a great place to meet people. Great place to do business. It's grown beyond. When I came in 1992, I was working for Intel Corporation. And I was sent here to look at whether Intel should actually exhibit. And of course, if you remember the early 90s, it was Bill Gates and Microsoft. And I think Bill Gates probably did 3 or 4 keynotes in a row back in the 90s. But it was a show where it was still not a car show. It's turned into a car show in the last few years, of course. But it certainly had all the hi-fi car radio bits and pieces with lots of semi-naked models, shall we say. on car boot bonnets.
Thankfully, that's sort of
That's all
waned,
stopped.
thank
Yeah.
goodness.
But certainly in the early 90s, that was the show it was. It was very consumer electronic oriented. And of course, it caught the boom with the PC industry, with Windows, which is why Gates was here so often. But yeah, I've come back every year since.
What's your best CES memory or best CES experience?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. You should have prompted me for that one. Best CES experience.
Well, we're not live. I can always edit this.
Yeah, no. Oh, thank you. Best CES experience. I think, well, one of the years I actually was employed by a exhibitor to do a broadcast booth. And we stole the idea from Tim at AVNation, quite boldly stole the idea of having a broadcast booth, and they employed myself and a few others to have a stand, and we invited luminaries to the stand. That was probably 2019. So that's very egotistical best moment, but it was the greatest thing because people came to see us, and we probably had 50 or 60 interviews over 3 or 4 days. People would come to the stand, and we were just there as a tokenish thing because somebody wanted people to come and visit their stand. It was weird. We were in the LVCC in the South Hall, which I think is still under renovation. We were in the drone area. We had nothing to do with drones, but
I remember.
We had drones, and there was the the robot that plays table tennis, ping pong. Yeah. So that was a good memory. In terms of best things we've seen, again, the years blur into one another. There's been some good keynotes. I remember John Chambers. We met him through a friend of ours. We went to his suite and saw him before his keynote. Met him. He was still at Cisco then. I think it was probably the year before he retired as the CEO of Cisco. That was a particularly good year. But that was because, it was a personal thing. We had front row seats. We met John Chambers before. He did the keynote, blah, blah, blah.
I remember.
And it was a good memory. In terms of the best things ever shown, again, we've lost a lot. The Bill Gates things, when people were standing up and launching a new version of Windows, that meant a lot. We don't seem to have that now. I mean, the keynotes these days.
Well, it's also and maybe software and Windows is a bad example, but we've lost the tangibility. We've lost the tangible nature of things that are at the show. There are still a few things that you can put your hands on and say, "Look, see, I have this. I own this." I mean, one of the biggest things for CES for me was seeing a piece of technology, and then like a year and a half down the line, my family or my friends would see it in the store and say, "Oh, I saw that a year ago." And it's that 18 to 24 month cycle.
Correct.
You got a lot of embedded technology this year. You got a lot of possible technology. There were a lot of hype streams. You remember what was going on with Metaverse last year? Yeah. And now it's kind of fallen back in. I don't think you're going to hear people talking about crypto or NFT this year.
Probably not.
It might be around, but they'll be embarrassed.
Yeah. Well, Metaverse is a little bit like VR was. You remember go back probably, 7, 8, 9, 10 years? VR was the big thing. VR. And again, you haven't heard anything about that.
Well, VR missed its consumer exit. It's got some terrific, and I was talking to Mark Peterson earlier, it's got some terrific applications for industry,
for sure.
Niche applications, for military. But, if 3 years of lockdown isn't going to be able to kick off a technology at the consumer, it's never going to make it. Same thing with 3D TVs, which are really popular for 2 or 3 years until the industry realized that people won't put on additional glasses in their own home that they don't need.
Correct. Well, we had, in the UK, we had a big hype from our big TV broadcaster, Sky, and they were expecting people to watch 3D soccer, 3D football. And you're not going to put your goggles on having a pint of beer in the pub. If you're not going to do it at home, you're not going to do it in the pub.
Exactly. So there are things like that get overhyped and miss, and Metaverse, I believe, is one of them.
Yeah.
I think we'll start to see things of that type of connection in the cloud, but it won't be called Metaverse. I think that was a hype train that's coming is waning this year. Any other technologies that you've seen over the years, or that you're expecting to see this year?
I think I've always poo-pooed what people call holograms, because people's understanding of a hologram. I'm smiling on saying this because I know I'm going to talk about Star Trek with you now.
No.
Well, you're going to have to, but holograms mean different things to different people. But they're starting to sort of take off. There's quite a few companies. There's probably about a dozen people doing hologram stuff here. Proto,
they call it hologram.
They call it hologram. The big one is Proto, of course, which has got lots of investment from lots of well-known US industry celebrities, if you like. Harry Mandel. Is it Harry Mandel, the comedian guy? Howie Mandel is a big investor in this, and there's a lot of other pop stars and things who've invested in the company. They're here. They're actually at one of one of the investors' sites, I think at the Aviation Hangar. But they're here, they're doing some demonstrations and bits and pieces. There are a number of other hologram people who are letting us be holograms. So if we go to a certain booth, they could make us a hologram, make us a hologram of ourselves, which I'm looking forward to doing. So I think there's about a dozen. I'm going to try and visit all of those, and I'll write a little report about the hologram stuff, because I think it's come a long way.
Being a 4-time CES Innovation Awards judge is always something that's going to be special to me. So I like going to check out what's going on with the Innovation Awards winners this year.
Our world needs us. It needs all of us to pay attention, to plug in, to commit, to tap into the powerful network of minds, ideas, and possibilities that are gathered right here. Because the stakes are higher than ever. Food insecurity, climate change, access to healthcare. These are the critical issues technology has the power to solve. The kind of tech that is already emerging around us, impacting every industry, every city, and every home. But these aren't just exciting new technologies we're talking about. These are solutions, powerful innovations, and most of all, hope. We're hopeful because the moments we spend right here might be some of the most important moments of the year. This is a chain reaction that begins now and affects everything, from the sustainability of this world to the exploration of others. Yes, the tech we'll see at CES will impress and astound us. It will also motivate us to innovate our way to a healthier, more sustainable world. But this kind of transformation requires our full attention, everything we've got. So be ready, be engaged, be inspired, be in it.
So that about wraps it up from CES 2023 here for AVNation TV's Connected 50th episode, 50. Love to keep going. I'll hopefully get you guys something even more interesting for the 100th episode. But for now, for everybody at AVNation TV, I'm David Danto. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.